If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a video demonstration must be worth at least 10,000. I want to show you a demonstration in this video of how I'm using AI and how you can use it because it's so valuable. But the key is having it know and understand you, and once it does, then you can just open up your imagination to all kinds of things that are possible. Here, what I'm using it is to help me improve myself. And you can do the same thing. You can use AI to help you improve yourself. Because most people are using AI like a search engine, or maybe to write something for them, write some copy, an email, a paper, something like that. But what if it really knew you? It knew your voice. It knew your goals. It knew what you were trying to do, your past. It knew what patterns were getting in your way and what patterns were helping you. It would be the difference from someone at a bus stop, a stranger at a bus stop, and you asking them for advice versus an expert in their field who knew you super well. Now, which advice would you rather have? A stranger at a bus stop giving you advice, or an expert who had all the world's knowledge, and on top of that, they knew you really well, so they could combine all the knowledge in the world with the context of knowing you and what you're striving to do. And that makes all the difference. In this demonstration, what I want to show you is I taught a class recently. I've been a teacher for decades, and I taught a class and I used AI to help me in two ways. The first way was I used it to turn this information into a podcast, so any students that were missing or absent, or they just didn't get it for whatever reason, they could listen to it again in a friendly format, and they could get the information in like 10 or 15 minutes. The other way I used it for was to create a podcast for me so I could see how could I improve my teaching. What were some things I was doing well? What were some areas I could improve on? And if you keep doing that every day or every week, let's say you improve 1% a week or 1% a day, that's going to have a significant compound effect on you. So this tool right here is going to show you how you can do that. Now, at the end of this video, I'll play the full podcast of what the students would hear if they were to listen to this. And shortly, I'll show you an excerpt of the part that it gave me specific information and guidelines on what I could do to improve as a teacher. Because you can be good at what you're doing, but it doesn't mean you can't get better. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, I'm not a teacher, I'm not in your class, what does this have to do with me? I'll tell you, if you just think of possibilities, open your mind to what could be happening here. And do you have staff meetings and are sometimes people absent? Well, what if you turned that staff meeting that they missed into a podcast and they could listen to that? It's a very user-friendly way to absorb the information, get the main points. In addition, if someone wanted to take boring HR policies, manuals, things that are important, but no one really, quite frankly, wants to read or wants to get into, but it's important, you need to know it, you could turn that stuff into a podcast. And a podcast is just one way. It's not the only way you can use AI. I'm just demonstrating it in this video on how you can use it, because what I found is I've used it to send me letters, to write me reminders, to tell me what are my 3 things I need to work on today. So it's got a whole bunch of things, but I'm just focusing on one area right here on a podcast, because I found it really easy, because as I'm driving to work, I can listen to the podcast. Now, most podcasts are made for the masses, but this is a personalized one-on-one podcast that's designed for you. So whatever area or industry you're in, this would be having AI look and see What is it noticing about your day? What is it noticing that you can do well or improve on? What are some things that you're not recognizing, patterns you're not seeing? Because I can tell you, quite frankly, even though I've been doing this a long time, it picks up patterns and habits and ways I'm teaching that I didn't realize. It said, okay, when you went this way, well, people might have been a little bit confused if they didn't have this background information. Did they have that before you went into this? So in here, what I want to do is give you an excerpt of this podcast, and the podcast is designed to help me become a better teacher. And when you add these up over and over and over, you're going to see the cumulative effect of having a personalized one-on-one podcast just for you, to help you grow, to help you improve in what you're trying to do.
Now, let's get into the analysis. Based on the sources, what really stood out as strengths in Bryan's teaching during this session?
One of the most apparent strengths, and something highlighted by the AI feedback, is Bryan's relatable storytelling and use of real-life analogies. Those metaphors, the default path, the cages, the lighthouse versus flashlight, and especially the Shackleton story, make abstract ideas incredibly tangible and memorable for students. That narrative approach is a core strength.
Agreed. He also manages a philosophical depth without losing accessibility. He's talking about concepts like living potential, internal resistance, regret, and the ego versus the soul. But he uses language students can understand and engage with. That's a rare skill, avoiding both talking down and becoming too abstract.
And despite what sounds like a challenging classroom environment with interruptions and students coming and going, Bryan was consistently engaging the students, particularly in those one-on-one interactions. He asked personal questions, validated their answers, and even followed their tangents, which builds rapport.
Yeah, his emotional intelligence was evident. He modulated his authority effectively, avoiding harshness. He seemed aware of student comfort levels and disengagement, and he named it in a non-threatening way. That's excellent classroom management through tone and empathy.
The AI feedback also mentioned his unique signature moves. Using historical case studies like Shackleton as modern metaphors is brilliant. Focusing on courage over comfort as a life theme, asking students to self-reflect, and seamlessly blending philosophical ideas with practical applications. That's a strong, distinct teaching brand.
The sources gave him an overall grade of an A- for this session, even accounting for the real-world classroom chaos. The feedback notes he kept engagement and delivered a meaningful, thought-provoking lesson, which is hard to do. His best moments are indeed when he challenges self-reflection, tells powerful stories, and ties random comments back into the learning.
So, while there's clearly a lot Bryan does well, the project is also about continuous improvement. What were the areas identified for growth?
The main area to watch is class structure drift. The conversation flows well, but sometimes the open-ended dialogue leads the main message to lose a bit of clarity or momentum. The example given is the aura or energy field discussion, which, while interesting, drifted into personal quirks and observation habits before tying back directly to the core theme of playing it safe or expanding.
That makes sense. It's a fine line between encouraging authentic student interaction and keeping the lesson focused. The other challenge, though partially unavoidable, is managing classroom interruptions. The notes on this by AI mentions phone calls, students entering with questions, and checkouts. These can definitely disrupt the flow and momentum of powerful moments.
Yes, that's tough in a real classroom. Finally, the feedback noted that the closing power felt a little rushed due to the bell and noise. Those final lines are incredibly strong, but some impact might have been lost.
So, if we were coaching or mentoring Bryan, what specific advice would we offer based on these points? The AI feedback gave some really concrete recommendations.
Absolutely. The first recommendation is to use a reset phrase after interruptions or tangents. When something pulls the class off track, having a simple go-to phrase like, okay, back to our big question. Are we playing it safe or stepping into growth? Immediately brings everyone's focus back to the core theme. It helps students mentally re-anchor.
That's a great, practical tip. It avoids the teacher having to figure out exactly where they left off and signals to students, okay, we're back to the main topic. The second recommendation is to preview the takeaway before the last 5 minutes. Signal to the students that the end is approaching and you have a crucial message you want them to hear.
Exactly. Saying something like, "Before we wrap up, I want to make sure you take this with you today," gives those final powerful lines, like choosing discomfort over regret and expansion over safety, the weight they deserve, even if the end of class is noisy.
And the third key recommendation, which addresses the drift issue, is to bring back the anchor metaphor regularly. Using the lighthouse versus flashlight comparison every 7 to 10 minutes helps cement the concept and keeps the discussion cohesive.
Hopefully you found that interesting and entertaining. I found that very useful because it's just a nice way to get some feedback. And we always know that feedback is the breakfast of champions, right? But if you're not getting that feedback regularly, how are you supposed to grow? And is someone always going to be able to help you? With AI, it's available 24/7. You can use it every day. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't need a coffee break. It's always there. So I really have found it helpful for me to grow, and it can do the same for you because the technology is here and it's available right now. If you are interested in this, you can learn more and see how it can be implemented into your life by joining my free live webinar at infinityshiftssystem.com/register. And in there, you'll get to see more. I'll go into more details on how this can work for you. The next part of this, I want to just have you watch the whole podcast of what students would get. And again, if you have nothing to do with schools, you might say, well, what does this have to do? But this would be what employees would get or what your crew would get if they miss something or if there's something important. And you could have all these podcasts stored and then people could go back and refer to them as needed. And the information there, it's captured. It's in a way that's easy and user-friendly. So I'll let you watch the whole podcast, or actually listen to the whole podcast right now as if you were a student.
Welcome to this deep dive. We've got something really interesting to get into today.
Oh, yeah. What's on the docket?
It's this idea of the cost of playing it safe in life. We're digging into a recording, actually, from a classroom session.
A classroom? Interesting source.
Yeah, and it raised some, well, pretty profound questions about how we actually choose to live.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So our mission really is to pull out the key insights,
Yeah.
About moving beyond just getting by.
Towards something more engaged, more meaningful.
Exactly, away from that sort of default path.
It's amazing how often those basic questions come up in unexpected places, like a classroom discussion. It sounds very unfiltered.
Totally, and it highlights this tension, right, between wanting security and wanting, well, more life.
That push and pull, safety versus expansion, it's relatable.
Definitely. And it kicks off with this quote from Earl Nightingale. It's pretty powerful.
Which one's that?
Most people tiptoe through life hoping to make it safely to death.
Ooh, yeah, that hits hard.
It does, doesn't it? And it makes you ask yourself, like, does that resonate? Are you really going for it, whatever it is for you? Or is it more like just managing things until the end?
That quote really drills down, doesn't it? Makes you look at your daily choices.
Yeah.
Are they about growth, new stuff? Or is it more about avoiding the unknown, avoiding discomfort?
Which leads right into this contrast that came up in the recording.
Yeah.
The difference between just surviving and actually trying to make mistakes.
Okay, say more about that. Trying to make mistakes.
Well, the idea is if you're always playing it safe, you're trying not to mess up.
Right. Avoid errors at all costs.
But isn't it often the mess-ups, the missteps, where the real learning happens, where we actually grow?
That's such a crucial point. I mean, think about it. When did you last learn something truly significant when everything just went perfectly smoothly?
Probably never. It's always the challenges, isn't it?
It is. The setbacks, the things we might label mistakes. They force you to adapt, to rethink. That's development.
And the recording had this great little story, a student talking about learning to draw.
Okay.
Admitted they were, not good at first, maybe even terrible, I think they said.
We've all been there with something new.
Exactly. But just by doing it, practicing, accepting they weren't instantly amazing,
Yeah.
they got better.
It's a perfect little analogy,
Yeah.
isn't it?
For life, basically.
Yeah, embracing that learning curve, even when it's awkward or the results aren't great right away. It's about the process, the progress, not instant perfection.
Okay, so let's dig into this other idea, The default path versus the chosen path. What are we really talking about there?
Well, the default path, it's essentially where life tends to go if you just sort of drift along with the current.
Go with the flow.
Pretty much. It's shaped by, your upbringing, your culture, the language you speak, societal norms.
What people expect of you.
Big time.
Right.
Spoken or unspoken expectations. It's the path that usually requires the least conscious steering, let's say.
Right. And the chosen path is the opposite.
It has to be. It requires conscious effort, intention. You're actively picking a direction based on your values, your desires.
Not just following the map someone else gave you.
Exactly. It doesn't just happen by accident. You have to choose it.
It makes you think, though. How many of us feel like we're really on our own chosen path?
Versus just fulfilling expectations or ticking boxes.
Yeah. Like that drawing example again.
Yeah.
That student chose to draw. But how many other parts of life are just doing what's expected?
And that's where you need that honest look inside, What's really driving your decisions? Is it genuine interest or is it obligation, external pressure?
Mm-hmm. The recording also brought up resistance to change. Use cars as an example.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Like how some people really resisted automatic transmissions back in the day. They wanted their stick shifts.
I remember that. It seems funny now, but it was a real thing.
But the point was, it wasn't always about practicality, was it?
No, often it's just comfort with the familiar. Even if something new is easier or more efficient, that initial, different feeling is strong.
And that ties into something bigger, right? Shying away from things.
Like leadership roles or being creative.
Yeah, because you're afraid of being criticized. You sort of build your own fence to stay safe from judgment.
That fear of negative feedback. Man, it can be crippling.
Stops you from stepping up, sharing ideas.
Totally. You end up sacrificing your potential impact, maybe even your own fulfillment, just to avoid the possibility of someone not liking it.
Yeah.
That's playing it safe.
Which flows really nicely into this next concept.
Yeah.
The invisible cage. That's a powerful metaphor.
It really is.
So what are the bars made of, this cage?
Well, the recording suggests it's things like fear, obviously, fear of failing, fear of judgment.
Okay, what else?
Avoidance, actively steering clear of anything challenging. Judgment itself, how we judge ourselves, worrying about how others judge us. And limiting routines.
The comfortable rut.
Exactly. Comfortable, but ultimately confining. They're not physical bars. They're mental, emotional. They limit what we think is possible.
But why stay in it if you feel it's restrictive?
Well, it sounds weird, but familiarity feels safe, even if it's limiting.
Like the recording's comparison to animals in captivity.
Yeah, exactly. They might feel safer in the cage they know than out in the unpredictable wild. Our brain's kind of like routine predictability.
Even if it means missing out.
Even then, the brain, the ego, they often prefer safety.
But then there's this other idea, referencing Bob Proctor, about the soul.
Right. The soul wanting something different.
What does it want?
Expansion. Fuller expression. To become more of who it truly is. It's like this inner drive that clashes with the cage.
So a constant tension. Ego wanting safe, soul wanting more.
Pretty much. Playing it safe keeps the ego happy, maybe, in the short term. But that deeper part, it feels stifled, unfulfilled.
Okay, this next point from the recording, this one really got me. The number one regret of people near the end of life.
Oh, yeah, that research is powerful. What did the source say?
I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me.
Wow, just wow.
It's incredibly profound, isn't it?
It speaks directly to this cost of playing it safe. Think about it. The biggest regret isn't usually about mistakes made while trying.
It's about what they didn't do.
Exactly. The chances not taken. The life not fully lived because they were worried about expectations or failure.
That really flips the script on what you might think you'd regret. I probably would have guessed big failures,
Me too, maybe. But no, it's the inaction, the unlived potential because you stayed in that safe zone.
Wow. Okay, so the conversation then moved to engagement, like really being in your life versus just going through the motions.
And there was a statistic, right?
Yeah, pretty shocking. Only about 23% of employees feel actively engaged at work.
Which means, what, 77% are just there?
Pretty much going through the motions, which led to this term, quiet quitting.
Ah, yes, quiet quitting, doing the absolute minimum to not get fired.
Right, no extra effort, no passion, just clocking in and out.
And that lack of engagement, it's a huge cost, isn't it? For the person, obviously their own fulfillment, but also for companies, for society.
No creativity, no energy.
None of that spark. quiet quitting is like a symptom of that deeper disengagement.
And the recording contrasted this with, I think it was a Harvard study.
Right, about happiness.
Yeah, finding that the happiest people have the most emotional and meaningful engagement in life.
Not just about money.
No. Stressed, joy, satisfaction, feeling connected, purpose.
Which brings it back again. True contentment isn't just about the paycheck. Playing it safe might mean staying in a secure but soul-crushing job.
And the cost to your actual well-being could be huge over time.
Absolutely.
Okay, this next bit was interesting, maybe a little out there for some.
Yeah.
The impact of fear on our personal energy.
Ah, the aura idea, electromagnetic field.
Yeah, that kind of thing. The recording touched on it.
And look, whether you buy into a literal visible aura or not, the core idea that our emotional state affects our energy, how we feel, how we show up, that's pretty relatable, I think.
Definitely. And the suggestion was that fear, worry, trying too hard to fit in.
Yeah.
You can kind of shrink your vibe, dim your energy.
Yeah, it makes you feel less vibrant, less present.
And it asks you to think about when you feel most vibrant, like maybe great around animals.
Or drained in big crowds.
Yeah. Or feeling really, I don't know, empowered out in nature, away from lots of people.
Those personal experiences definitely line up with the idea that different environments, different feelings, they tangibly affect us, our energy.
So playing safe might mean avoiding stuff that makes you uncomfortable.
But maybe you're also missing out on the stuff that truly lights you up, energizes you.
Which leads to another metaphor from the recording.
Yeah.
Dimming your own light.
The flashlight versus the lighthouse.
Yes, such a great image. The flickering flashlight or the big bright lighthouse beam.
It really captures that choice, doesn't it?
No.
Do you let your real self, your full potential, shine?
Or do you dim it down? Maybe to make others comfortable. Or because you're, like, scared of your own brightness.
And the recording suggested most people tend to dim.
Yeah.
Well, small. There was that anecdote too, right? The speaker being different as a teacher versus a coach.
Oh, right. Contrasting personalities. Teacher versus basketball coach.
It shows we can adapt our approach. We have different sides.
That's the question is, are you choosing consciously? Or just habitually shrinking out of fear or trying to fit in?
Exactly. Are you dimming out of habit or shining appropriately?
Then the discussion turned to internal resistance and the idea that that's often way more powerful than outside pressure.
Oh, for sure. The enemy within.
What kind of internal resistance did it mention?
The classics, really. I'm not good enough. That's a big one. Fear of looking stupid if you trip and fail. Not wanting to be seen, like really seen.
Standing out feels dangerous.
Yeah. And that belief that success is, for other people, not for me. These inner stories keep us locked in that safe zone.
And fear can disguise itself as logic, right? The recording mentioned that.
Oh, absolutely. Fear is sneaky. It rationalizes inaction.
Like the speaker starting a business while teaching. Seemed illogical to some.
Exactly. Fear frames anything challenging as impractical, too risky, not sensible. You have to learn to spot when logic is just fear in a smart suit.
Wow. Okay, and then the idea that we only use, 20 to 40% of our potential?
Yeah, attributed to sources like the Navy SEALs, Tony Robbins. It's a staggering thought.
That there's this huge untapped capacity just sitting there.
It really highlights how much we limit ourselves. The mind gives up way before the body needs to. Often.
Our perceived limits are mostly mental then.
Very often, yes. We think we're done, but there's usually more in the tank.
Which brings us to that incredible story. Ernest Shackleton.
Ah, the endurance expedition. What a story.
Just unbelievable survival against all odds in Antarctica.
Truly remarkable. Ship crushed by ice, stranded for, nearly 2 years in brutal conditions?
Yeah. And then Shackleton and 5 others sailing 800 miles in an open boat.
Insane. Just to get help.
And the most amazing part, every single man, all 27, were eventually rescued.
It's almost unbelievable.
And the quote highlighted from that story.
So relevant.
What was it again? They lost everything except hope, discipline in each other. They didn't survive because they played it safe. They survived because they were unbreakable.
Boom. Right there. That's the core of it.
Their survival wasn't about minimizing risk.
No. It was sheer determination, resilience, trusting each other when everything went wrong.
And the recording drew that parallel, didn't it? Between their physical struggle and our maybe spiritual or emotional struggle when we just play it safe all the time.
It's a powerful comparison, their unbreakable spirit versus our tendency to fold when things feel merely uncomfortable, not life-threatening.
So this whole deep dive seems to build towards this really potent final statement.
Which one?
You can have a life of safety or a life of meaning, but not both.
Oof. Yeah, that lays it out pretty clearly.
It forces you to choose, doesn't it? What do you value more, comfort or meaning?
Are you willing to trade some security for a shot at something truly expansive?
And the final push was just so direct. Choose discomfort over regret.
Choose expansion over safety.
Choose life over survival. Basically, stop waiting.
Stop waiting for certainty because it's probably not coming. You already know deep down what you need to do.
And that last line, the world needs your light, and it needs it now.
Yeah. Playing small doesn't protect you from misery, mediocrity, or regret. It actually guarantees them.
Wow. So wrapping this up, this deep dive really hammers home that playing it safe while it feels protective.
It comes at a huge potential cost. The cost might be depth, meaning real fulfillment.
And ironically, stepping out of the comfort zone, being willing to risk mistakes, that's the path to growth.
That's where the juice is. That's where you find that authentic, vibrant life.
Okay, so here's the final thought for you to chew on, the takeaway.
Lay it on us.
Think about one area in your life, just one, where you might be tiptoeing, playing it a bit too safe.
Okay, got one in mind.
Now, what would a lighthouse approach look like there? Big, bold, shining, bright.
Instead of the dim flashlight.
Exactly. And then what's one small step? Just one. Something you could actually do today. Not tomorrow, today.
A step towards expansion, not just maintaining safety.
That's the challenge. What's that first small step out of the safe zone?
I hope you're seeing how this can be used in education, in different fields, and the value of it. Because with a few little tweaks, a few little ways of having AI get to know you, get to see what are you trying to do, how can it help you out, training AI to help you so then you can excel. And there is a plethora of ways you can do it. And that is the exciting thing, because it's almost like whatever you can imagine at this point, it's possible. If you are interested in learning about this, please sign up for my webinar at infinityshiftssystem.com/register. And you can learn how you can do this for yourself. And then the sky's the limit on whatever direction you want to go. Whatever area in your life you want to improve on, if it's relationships, if it's school, if it's sales, whatever you're trying to work on, AI can be your coach and help you do that when you train it. Thanks for being here. Check out the other videos I have on how to use AI in your life. And I'll see you in the next video. All the best to you.